What happens when we keep searching for options and the answer is already in front of us? Because most of the time, we don't reject Jesus. We just kind of chop that out, right? In this setting that we're going to walk through, Jesus begins with desire. It's in John chapter 1. Jesus, he doesn't ask, do you believe? He doesn't ask, are you qualified? He asks, what are you looking for? Because Jesus always confronts our search. And then he says, come and see, right? So he's pointing here, John chapter 1 and verse 35. The next day again, John was standing with two of his disciples. John was. So John has two disciples that are standing with him. In verse 36, and he looked at Jesus as he walked by and said, behold the Lamb of God. Right? So John opens this setting saying, look, that's him. Right away. John realizes the Messiah. John sees the Messiah, and the Messiah doesn't need hype from John. He doesn't need hype at all. Because Jesus don't need hype when he walks in the room. Who he is stands on its own. And sometimes I've learned it's easier to follow confidence. I kind of wonder if this is where they were at with John. It's easier to follow a confident John than who is this Messiah? Who is this Jesus? But John implies here, let's stop for a minute and acknowledge, look at who this really is. It's the Lamb of God. Because if you don't behold him, you'll probably end up looking for substitutes. What if we made time to look for him or to look at him? Just to, like John says, behold him. This is a God that can do anything. His word, his voice, his ways. Because sometimes all that's missing is just our attention. And so in verse 37, the two disciples heard him say this. And they followed Jesus. Two disciples hear John. And they follow Jesus. Notice they start walking after Jesus. And my mind goes to, do they fully understand him? Do they fully understand who it is? Do they fully understand what they're doing? Are they fully convinced at Jesus' words? Or are they just curious and maybe want to learn more? And watch what this reveals about Jesus. He allows himself to be followed before he's fully understood. They don't have to go through a training to walk with Jesus. They don't have to pull off a first steps to walk with Jesus. And Jesus ain't insecure about it. He's not threatened by the curiosity. And then, what does this reveal in the followers? We usually want certainty before we take surrender right? We want to know this is exactly what the outcome is going to be when we make this decision. It's like getting a new car or getting a new home or maybe getting a new phone. You want to know the outcome? But sometimes we don't know the outcome. We just have to surrender. Like, this is a risk, but following can start out messy. But do we really know who we're following? Like, no. I know who I'm following. Turns around. Two disciples heard it. They followed Jesus. Jesus turns around. Jesus turns around. And you think that you're discreetly, imagine following someone and you think like I'm following him like low key. He may not know there's multiple followers. There's more than one. I'm hidden in the crowd, right? And imagine you're in that moment and you think you're discreetly following Jesus and Jesus stops and turns around. And he looks at you. Verse 38, Jesus turned and saw them following and said to them, "What are you seeking?" Because while they're chasing answers, while they're chasing solutions, outcomes, looking back at them. He's looking back at, he notices the quiet seekers. He notices us, right? He notices you, right? Where we're at. He notices. And they said to him, "Rabbi," which means teacher, "where are you staying?" Which is interesting because he asked what they're looking for, and they ask, "Well, where are you staying? Where are you living? Where are you, like, do you live anywhere? Do you have a home? Like, what?" They don't ask him what are you looking for? What are you looking for? What are you seeking? Jesus doesn't ask them, "Well, are you ready to commit? Are you, who do you think I am?" Like he asked Peter, he just asks them what they're looking for. And so right away he pulls out desire. What are you looking for? What are you really after? What are you really searching for? What's really the motive? Right? And this is confronting because many of us really know what we actually want. Like, really know, I want this. It says, even if it's Jesus, what do we really know what we're asking for? Generally speaking, it's vague, right? If I asked you today, in 10 years, what do you see your house looking like? I would imagine that most of us would be vague. We have this idea and this idea and this idea, right? Or maybe in 10 years, what does a car for us look like? We can have a vision board. But what about the detail? What about the heated seats in the back seat? What about the panoramic moonroof? What about how far Generally speaking, what are you seeking? Well, how specific do I get? What are you seeking? Right? Vague, right? And the disciples respond here. It's almost as though it's awkward. They respond here by saying, "Where are you staying at? Where are you living? Where are you?" And I feel like this translates, we don't even know what to ask. I don't know what to say back to this. But it's their honesty, right? Is it security they're after? Is it validation they're after? Is it relief? Is it control? Or maybe just a life that feels like something we can manage, something we can walk through, something we can. And we attach ourselves to outcomes. We sometimes strive for an approval. We look for a false identity, and we don't necessarily reject Jesus. It's not that we're saying, like, I don't want you, Jesus. Like, it's not. It's we just hope he'll help us get what we're chasing. Right? And here's the thing, if we don't name what we're looking for, sometimes we'll use Jesus to get it. All these followers go. I wonder if that's why so many followers, all these followers go with Jesus and then something said and they're like, you know what, Jesus, we're out. And then some walk away and full disclosure, like, haven't we all done this? Where we'll take peace, but we'd rather not have the surrender, right? We'll take the purpose, but man, it's hard to listen to his voice, right? We'll take the healing, but like we don't want the vulnerability that goes with that healing. And what if we said it though? What if we just declared it? What if we wrote it? We say, okay, God, this is what I'm looking for, with absolutely no filter. Now, we could talk all day physical, but what about spiritual? Okay, God, this is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for following you because I need some peace in my life. I'm following you because I'm controlling this outcome. I'm controlling this narrative. I'm managing all this, and I'm following you because it's heavy. Life's just heavy sometimes. Because unnamed desire can quietly run our life. But here's the thing, though. While the unnamed desire can quietly control our life, he's still him. Let's be clear about who's standing in front of the disciples. Let's be clear about that Jesus turns to them, And this is the one, he turns to them. This is the one that raised Lazarus from the dead. This is Jesus. This is the one that opened blinded eyes. As an issue. This is the one who heals a woman who has an issue of blood. This is the one who spoke to storms in the middle of the water. And they listened. He forgave sins that not even a priest could forgive. Only he could. He walks out of a grave. And he turns, not a life coach, not a mentor, not a vibe. He's not a spiritual option. He's him. This is Jesus. And the disciples are asking where are you staying? Where are you staying at? And Jesus, because he's him, gives an invitation in verse 39. He said to them, come and you will see. So they came and saw where he was staying. And they stayed with him that day, for it was about the 10th hour. So he doesn't debate or even pressure. And this is what I love about Jesus. I see this over and over and over in the Gospels. He continuously invites. He just invites. Here it is. You want it? Think of the rich young ruler. Hey, what do I have to do to inherit eternal life? And Jesus, what does he do? As well, what's the commandments look like? Oh, yeah, I've done that. Okay. Yeah. All right. There it is. Well, we're good then. Well, it's an invite. All you have and give it to the poor. It's not a commandment. It's an invite. Here, you want this? Here's this. It's interesting sometimes what we want is tied to what we won't let go of. We want healing from this, but it's tied to we don't want to let go of this. So Jesus invites him, it says, and it says, they came, they saw, and they stayed with him that day. So they go from striving to rest, right? They're working with John, they're following Jesus, and Jesus doesn't give them a program, he gives them his presence. You know why? Because Jesus satisfies seekers just being him. He satisfies those that seek him just by being. He doesn't have to be something else. He's with him, it's all about relationship. And here's what we're looking for, right? Answers. But Jesus offers himself. And that's sometimes harder because we can't control him. Right? It's easier to control the narrative. It's easier to control the outcome, right? And man, when we strive, we actually we're afraid. We're afraid of choosing the wrong thing, right? We're afraid of, or sometimes we're just afraid of missing out, or we're afraid of losing control, or we're surrendering control. But rest only comes when the shopping stops. We're not looking for other things. We stop. He's the answer. He's him. Not our sphere of influence. He's not even our social feed. He's him. And we don't need another option. We just need him. We don't need to go find peace. I was thinking about this. I was talking to someone and they had just mentioned, they just dropped out there that they needed to do this because this was where peace was at. And I didn't really think about it much at the time. And then later I'm looking, kind of studying through peace, and that comment came back to me, and I thought, well, you can go try to find peace, but he's the peace. He is. The sphere of influence isn't going to give us peace. We can have the best friends. We can have the best people in our lives. We can have the best whatever. But he's the answer. He's the peace. When we have him, we don't have to escape something to find this. We don't have to escape something, right? He is. And peace begins when the comparison of him ends. Because this is a lot of times what seems like we do is we'll say, well, if I have this in my life, right? If I have this in my life, I'll have more peace. I'll have more. And there's like a comparison, a subtle, an unconscious comparison of, well, this will help me, and this will help me, and this will help me, and this, oh man, this. But he's not one of many. He's him. There's no comparison. He's just him. And so, what does a surrender look like? I'm going to go back to verse 38, where it says, Jesus turned and saw them following and said to them, what are you seeking? So he's saying, what are you really looking for? And I hear this question still alive today. What are you seeking? What are you looking for? And now, notice Jesus doesn't begin with demand. He begins with desire. What are you seeking? What's really the motive behind the follow? What are you looking for? And he's not shaming us, right, into the change, right? He's asking us, but he's asking us to free us. What really is what's behind it, right? And we underneath everywhere, but at the end of the day, he's the answer. He's not an alternative. He's the answer underneath all the questions. Watch this. Story of Jesus and his disciples out on the boat. Before he goes, Jesus tells them, he says, we're going to the other side. That's what he tells them. They get in a boat. Jesus goes down into the bottom of the boat, and he goes to sleep. All of a sudden, storm hits. The waves start crashing against the boat. I imagine the sky gets dark, and the rain is coming down as though it's hail. And if I was on that boat, I would be a nervous wreck. Lightning, thunder. The boat rocking back and forth. In the middle of the water, I can't see the shore because the rain is so heavy and the fog is so thick and the waves are freaking me out. And so one of them goes down and, Jesus, what are you doing asleep down here in the boat? Don't you know there's a storm? So Jesus gets up and he goes to the top of the boat and he says the notorious words, peace, be still, and boom. It calms. The sun begins to shine again. The rain ceases and the sky parts the clouds to now you can see the blue. White clouds start to form. What do they call them? Cumulus or? I don't know that stuff. But the disciples say something to each other that I find really interesting. They say, what manner of man is this, that even the wind and the seas obey him? Who is this? The wind and the seas obey him. And here's what's interesting. The wind. Now, I've thought to myself, what is the wind? Because, we can talk about how Jesus goes out and he calms the storm, right? But what does that look like in your life? What does that look like in your life? So Jesus gets in my life and he just calms the storm. Well, what's the storm? So what's the wind and what's the seas? I want to submit something to you this morning. The wind, intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts that just come in. The thoughts that sometimes we can't control and we don't really know why they're there, why they came through, but they just blow right in, right? I'm walking by, I'm driving by last night. I see this all the trees don't have leaves and they look like they're standing still. And all of a sudden I see this great big American flag that's blowing in the wind, straight out. And I'm thinking to myself, well, those ain't blowing. Why is the flag blowing? And then I thought to myself, those intrusive thoughts. Yeah, the fear loops that cycle over and over and over again, afraid of what people might think, afraid of what real peace might look like, and then invisible cycles that cause you to spiral. You just keep thinking about it over and over and over and over and over and over again. Wind, it just blows in, and what do you do with it? And then the wind is invisible, but it moves everything. The wind, you can't see it, but it moves that flag. Boy, it moves that flag. It moves the trees. I've seen trees. You've seen trees. They blow down because the wind just comes in, and it's like those thoughts come in and they start dropping things. And what's going on? And you start, and it's what's the seas? And so I'm thinking about the wind, and I'm thinking about the seas, and I'm thinking, well, the seas, it's deep. The seas are, it's that emotional depth. It's that grief that still feels raw. Maybe it's being resolved, but it's taking a minute to resolve it, right? Wounds that haven't formed scar tissue just yet. They keep bleeding. It's taking a minute for them to heal, right? It's that emotional chaos. It's deep. It's unconscious. Sometimes we can't see it. Sometimes we're trying to figure out what's going on with it. And then pain and betrayal that still echo in our minds. Things that maybe we didn't realize it pops up, that keeps, and the C's represent the unconscious part of who we are. That part of us that the C represents that part of us where we make the decision and we're like, why did we make that decision? Why did I do that? Why did I go there? What was I thinking? What was I? The C's, that emotional depth. And here's the thing. Wind destabilizes. All of a sudden, something that seems stable like a tree, all of a sudden it's like, is that thing going to fall? Is that thing going to? And then the sea suffocates you. I can't breathe. I need oxygen, right? Wind aimlessly takes you here and there. And the sea takes your life source, what you need to survive most. Wind attacks your mind, and the sea attacks your heart. The wind swirls above, and the sea pulls you under. And here's the thing. What manner of man is this that even the winds and sea obey him? And here's the real tension, because it's not about the storm, it's about trusting him enough to speak to the noise that's in our inner world. Because he has authority over what we think, and he has authority over what we feel. And here's what I love. Bro, he dominates. He's him. Jesus dominates where we feel powerless. Because he's him. He's him. He's him. What an awesome God. What an awesome God. I wonder if we could just take a minute and just close our eyes and reflect where can we lean into that? Knowing that wind comes. I know sometimes we think it's external. I know sometimes we think that external thing needs fixed. That I know we need those healings, those physical healings, we need those car repairs. We need that rent check is due, and I understand all that. But there's something deeper that's going on that Jesus wants to tap into. That wind and the seas obey him. He's him. And so that mental chaos that's going on in your mind, I just came to let you know this morning, he's the answer. He's him.